In the age of digital transactions, a swipe can help you shop online, it can help you order food, or even help you book tickets. But there's risk everywhere. Prowling eye on every transaction, lens on every digit of your credit and debit card. Every ping, every swipe is being tracked by people looking to flush out your hard-earned money from your bank account. Even in the age of UPI, RBI data shows that in the month of September, there were 51 million debit card transactions and 131 million transactions on e-commerce sites alone. These cards can go from boon to bane in a matter of seconds. From technical methods like card skimming to traditional tricks like identity thefts and phishing, credit and debit card frauds online come in all shapes and forms. Join us on Mirror Now against cyber scam as we unveil the intricate web of credit and debit card frauds, empowering you with strategies to safeguard against this digital deception.
Hello and welcome to this special broadcast, Mirror Now against cyber scam. This is a special series where we tell you about different types of cyber frauds and how you can save yourself from those cyber crimes. On this episode, we talk about the frauds related to credit and debit cards. On the broadcast, I am joined by two special guests, NS Napinai. She's an advocate and also founder Cyber Sathi. I'm also joined by Aparna Ramachandra, founder and director Rectify Credit. Thank you very much to both you ladies for joining us on this special broadcast. I'd like to start with you, Aparna. This is one of the most common frauds that is carried out across the country, especially after the COVID pandemic, since we started using the online platforms and e-commerce platforms a lot, and paying through our cards and UPI payments increased, etc., etc. But if we talk about the different types of crimes that can be carried out when it comes to our credit and debit cards, it can be harvesting through phishing websites, it's card cloning, it's when we go to the ATM and there our cards are copied and the numbers are copied, crimes are carried out. First of all, help us understand the different kinds of frauds that can be carried out when it comes to our credit and debit cards.
Like they always say, the criminal initially is always one step ahead of us. So, there are a whole lot of crimes that are happening as far as these credit cards are concerned. They may be on their shopping websites. They may be on, very basic, simple, something like where you buy your petrol, your grocery. So wherever you are basically using your credit card, sometimes at the restaurants and, and then online shopping sites and all of that. So largely, wherever the data has been shared or somebody has been able to clone your card is where you are susceptible for a credit card scam to happen. So where, how, what, then there is a whole gamut that can happen.
Okay. NS Napinai, let's particularly talk about phishing websites and how they use our cards and carry out cyber crimes. Help us understand what exactly happens and what it means when we talk about harvesting our cards.
One of the earliest kinds of cybercrime cases I've dealt with was where a website was set up, which used the shell, as they call it, of the original website, which was of a jeweler. So what happens is, when you go to this website, and it would invariably involve multiple layers of crime being committed. So one part of the crime was cyber squatting, and also falsification through a minor variation in terms of the website's domain name. So for instance, if you have Napinai, which is Nappinai, and you just add another I to it and you create a website, most people who go to that may not even realize that they are in the wrong site, because otherwise everything in the site looks the same. So when you go there and you think you're entering certain details, you really don't know that you're doing it in a third party site. So this was actually a very specific kind of case which targeted a particular business. But what you saw as being most prevalent was similar kinds of situations pertaining to banks. So most of the sites would have that domain name which would be, very marginally different, which you may not be able to catch the difference of. It would copy the shell of the look and feel of the bank's website. But when you, for instance, you would get an email saying if you do not complete your KYC or know your customer norms within 24 hours, 2 days, etc., then your bank account will be frozen and you have to attend the bank for you to revive it. Who wants their account frozen? So people panic, and then they immediately click on the link that's given in the email, and it takes them actually to the fraudulent site, which looks and feels like a bank site. And when they enter the details there, it'll then show 404 error, or it'll just say the website is under construction, or there is some error, try again, etc. But the criminals have caught the details which you have entered. So this was another very old modus operandi.
Can I also then ask you, Napinai, what's the difference? How do we differentiate between what is an original, genuine website, and when do we know that it is a phishing website which is trying to carry out a cybercrime fraud? Are there any small technicalities that we should be on the lookout for? Because correct me if I'm wrong, because those technicalities of HTTPS, all of these perhaps are now long gone. The fraudsters have overcome this as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. So I would, say that the first and foremost, and people may not like hearing this, but this is the easiest way to keep yourself safe, is do not click on links. Even if it is something like a web check-in, or, for instance, one of the most recent scams appears to be a message to you saying your PNR so-and-so has been cancelled. Please go and check on this link. So I don't click on links. So I go to the website, I enter the website details. I went onto the website to verify whether there is really this PNR, and is there a flight which I'm taking which is cancelled, and I noted that there is no such PNR existing. So when you use convenience as a means, and invariably everything to do with technology today is about making life more convenient for you. But remember, with that convenience, it also makes it very convenient for the criminal to commit a crime. So go to the website and enter. I'm saying this with the qualifier that there are also crimes where people have breached the security of websites and have entered fraudulent numbers, for instance, to call. When you go to a website to find out a customer care number and then you call, you're actually calling a fraudster. So that is at a higher level of crime. But at a basic level, in terms of phishing attacks, etc., one of the easiest ways of avoiding it is don't click on links. Go to the site and then enter your details to see what exactly is the situation, or call the bank or your relationship manager to find out whether there really is a need for KYC or whatever the reason that is stated in the fraudulent communication. The communication can come to you in the form of an SMS, email, or even a WhatsApp message today. So it could be in any form.
And I think one of the most important points to remember is that the bank will not call you and get your personal details on an SMS or a phone call. They would want you to come there physically, or at least fill up a form and then fill out your personal details. But Aparna, we've all had our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation where we have to tell them not to click on links. Don't click on those links that come on your phone. They can redirect you anywhere to any sort of phishing website. And one of the other things that we keep telling them, and perhaps we all should be careful about is the fact that when we go to ATM, and this is one of the most common frauds as well. Several videos have come to light regarding this. When we go to the ATM, there is a camera, tiny little camera, which is capturing your PIN there, your card number, everything is being captured there. That perhaps is also one of the most prevalent crimes when it comes to our credit and debit cards, isn't it?
True, true. Like just yesterday, I was dealing with a senior citizen who had gone through a similar fraud, and his money had been siphoned off. So I was telling my team that this whole internet banking, this telephone banking can be very overwhelming for senior citizens. I mean, at one level, banks don't want you to visit the branch; they want you to download their app and do everything on the phone because it is economical for them. But for senior citizens, I think it is very, very overwhelming. And sometimes I have also seen people where their children or whoever has given them so much instructions that they in confusion and the stress, they end up doing what they have been told not to do. So this is it is sad, but it is true. But like the other person, lady who was just mentioning, I forget your name. See, if you see in this entire explanation, there is always something that you need to read a little bit extra before you click on anything, before you say yes to anything, before you apply for anything. There is one more step that you need to read. People are in such mad rush to just deal with transactions that there is a high tendency to not, overshoot, not see things. If you are smart enough, for example, all those SMSs that came, your MSAB connection is going to get disconnected, your electricity is going to go on. They were all coming from some random mobile numbers. If you see a bank or a electricity company or a MTNL kind of a thing, or Vodafone, they will never send you from a mobile number. It is always with their number. There is a special number, or it is a 1800 series. So these are small little things that one need to be little watchful. Then at least I assume that at least 50 to 60% of these fraudulent things you can avoid. And of course, sometimes the look and feel is the same. The website looks everything, and you click on something and then you head somewhere. So those are something that one cannot be 100% foolproof, but at least 80 to 90%, because most of the times I tell people the simplest thing for people to do is save that credit card information on the phone. Today that phone is such a piece of like a time bomb. Somebody gets access to your phone, that's like end of the story. You have your banking app there, you have your shopping app there, you have your grocery app there. Everywhere you've saved your credit card details, everywhere you've saved your address, your mobile number, everything. So for the other person, you've literally given the data on a platter, right? And the second thing that I keep telling people is, those tap transactions where you give the credit card and you say just tap and then the thing goes through. Why? I mean, it just takes half a second to enter your PIN, but please do it. And you always can set up a limit where those taps can be very, very minimal. But some people I have seen, like 50,000, there is just a tap. These are things that one can avoid, right? So it works both ways. If they are smart, we are lazy. So it is a bad combination.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting way to put it. If they are smart, we are lazy. But NS Napinai, what are the top things that we should not be doing when we enter an ATM so as to avoid becoming a cybercrime victim? Just very easy things, quick things that we can do or be on the lookout for when we are going into an ATM for that transaction.
Thank you so much for this question, because I've been wanting to come in on this aspect. The first and foremost is always use an ATM which is part of a bank. don't use a standalone ATM. One of the most interesting cyber crimes that happened in foreign land, I'm not sure if it was London or in Europe, was there was a standalone ATM and people kept going in and trying to withdraw money, and it kept saying it's run out of money. And the next day, the entire booth went missing. That's the most innovative a criminal can get, right? So that was one of the earliest. I'm talking about sometime in 2005 or 6, yeah. So since then, I always look for, in whichever part of the world you are in, go to an ATM which is next to a bank. Chances of that being genuine is much higher. The second thing is, you asked about how the data
But
is.
that unfortunately defeats the purpose of an ATM, no, NS Napinai? The
Not
fact
really,
that
at least we're not standing
ATM,
in line
is
to
supposed
the-
to be a standalone place where we can transact money. Yeah, but with cybercrime and fraudsters coming in, I think we'll have to sort of
But every
withdraw a
corner you
little
have a
from
bank
our
and the bank
convenience
has
of an
an
ATM.
Also, there are these private ATMs, I think, which is what Kapila is mentioning.
Yeah.
Don't not get into those ATMs because there is a high chance of, that turning out to be a fraud wala ATM.
No, and I can tell you I've done this in every part of the world. Every corner you'll have some bank with an ATM. And nowadays the advantage you have is you don't have to go looking for your bank, right? You can use any bank's ATM as long as it's annexed to
Yeah.
the bank, and you still, it is still convenience. The what we talked about earlier, no, about safety versus convenience. So to that extent, you're still compromise. You
Yeah.
may be choosing convenience without compromising safety. The second thing is, you talked about how data was captured in ATMs. One of, again, a very old scam was what the banks did also, and this is when you're going to a bank also, I'm saying. What the banks did was, and when it was just where you could use the bank's debit card for the withdrawing money, etc., they had a skimmer on the door. You had to first swipe there for you to enter. That was the key to open the door. And the criminals used that skimmer to capture data.
And therefore, it leads me to the next cybercrime, which is very common, specifically after COVID, Aparna, is the fact that when we're doing online transactions on e-commerce sites and we're using our card, like you said, we put in our card number there. Is it the smarter way to go about it is to not save our card numbers there and to make the effort of putting it there every time we're buying something online instead of just saving our card
Always.
number there?
Always, always, always. Because see, there are two things. One is you don't know that website where if they are selling the data to any third party and data is further getting shared elsewhere. Then you have no control. Like if I have swiped on a particular website, but that website in turn has sold the data to somebody else, then there I have no control, right? So that is number one. Number two, like if your machine is compromised, then the whole thing is gone. And today, unfortunately, we have everything on our mobile. And equally higher are the instances where the mobiles are getting, stolen. So one, access to your mobile and then you've given everything away. So, and I would also like to add is, when you're doing your financial transactions where your banking app is there and, see if you can add a multiple layer of, password to that or, some security there so that it is not very easily accessible. So that's one way to at least deter the person by another two steps into getting access to it. But on the websites, never ever save, because if you see there is always an option where it says I don't want to save, or it says opt out for now and then proceed. So always say opt out for now and then proceed. Don't save your data on any of these apps. You may be shopping on that website on a daily basis. Maybe it is you buy food there or you buy your grocery there, but it just takes another extra 20 seconds, but it is worth that 20 seconds.
Okay. Let me also talk about card cloning, Napinai. It's probably a little difficult than the other card frauds that we've talked about, but it is still prevalent. It is still there. and it is still possible for any of us to become a victim of that.
Certainly. In fact, earlier it was a lot easier because the credit cards relied only on the magnetic strip. So thereafter, banks moved into the chip and pin process to make it more difficult to clone the cards. So you now, of course, have a higher level of technology for helping with cloning. But as you rightly said, it has been made a lot more difficult now.
Okay, you talked about the RBI, Napinai. I want to talk about the guidelines that are in place by the RBI in case a cyber crime related to our credit and debit cards happens with us. What is the kind of guideline, the regulation, the guideline for us getting back our money in case we become a crime, in case we become a victim? Are there any guidelines for it, and how do we really go about it?
Very pertinent question, and thank you for the same, because often we now come across messages which are continuously warning victims about what to do and what not to do. But the most critical thing that they should be informed about is, if they were to fall victims, what are the remedies available in law? So in that, there are two circulars that the RBI has come out with, one for banks and others for the payment systems like your digital wallets, etc., like PhonePe or any of the other digital wallets. Now, what the RBI's guideline says, it creates two categories. One is zero liability and the other is limited liability. So from 0 to 3 days, if you have fallen victim to a credit card or a debit card fraud, and if you intimate the bank immediately and block your card, then the chances are you will be covered under this guarantee of zero liability. So whatever liability you may be facing in terms of any fraudulent transactions can be protected against. But if you have contributed to the fraud by sharing some information like the one-time password or OTP, as we call it, and therefore have fallen victim to a phishing attack, and through that a fraud is committed, you will have to look at the parameters that are laid down by the RBI and the facts of the case, and you may still be covered under the limited liability aspect. So the most critical thing for you to do if you have fallen victim is, first and foremost, actually before you fall victim, there is one step that you should take immediately. Check with your bank on what is the insurance that covers your credit or debit cards. All banks offer that depending on the category of the card that you are holding. Depending on that, you will also find that it is a lot safer to use a credit card sometimes than a debit card, because you then have 15 days to repudiate a transaction, to file your complaint and to stop payments to a merchant, etc. Whereas in the debit card, the money goes out immediately and recovering it is invariably impossible. So depending on the terms that you have received your card on, you will be able to protect yourself better. The second thing is, immediately complain to the bank and have your card blocked if you see a suspicious transaction. Do not wait, and if somebody tells you go and first file an FIR, even if the bank tells you that, it's very important that you tell them to first take your complaint on record and to block your card, and then go and give your criminal complaint and bring the FIR, etc. for the bank. Nobody can refuse to take your complaint. No bank.
And that they're supposed to do. The bank officials cannot turn you away.
Absolutely.
Right? They are supposed
right.
to first take your complaint. They are not supposed to wait for a police complaint.
Exactly, okay. Because that's what the RBI mandates. So it's really important for customers to know that they cannot be turned away by the bank or the service provider. Their complaint has to be taken on record. Their payment instrument has to be blocked immediately. And then the issue about what is the recovery amount that they're going to get can be resolved.
Okay, one last question, Napinai ji, to you. What are the remedies that we can find in law if and when we become a victim of a cybercrime related to our credit and debit cards?
Thank you for the question. Again, we spoke about the RBI guidelines. So how do you then get your remedies if your bank refuses to repay your amount, etc.? So the law gives you multiple options. You can file a complaint before what is called as the adjudicating officer under the Information Technology Act. You can, of course, proceed with your criminal complaints, but that is not meant to recover your money. The complaint before the adjudicating officer is what is supposed to give you the money. You can also file under the Consumer Protection Act, depending on the service provider you're moving against. And finally, you also can file a complaint with the RBI's Ombudsman. These are all simple and speedy remedies. At least it was meant to be speedy, though now we have a fairly heavy backlog in each of these fora also. But these are alternatives that are available to you.
All right, we'll leave it there. Napinai ji and Aparna ji, thank you very much for joining us on this special broadcast. As always, we tell our viewers that if you have become a victim of any cybercrime, the first golden rule is to make sure that you report it online somewhere. You file a complaint in that golden hour of reporting the cybercrime, so that as soon as possible, officials and authorities can take action towards it. With that, we're wrapping up the special broadcast. On this series, we will keep getting you the different kinds of cyber crimes and how you can save yourself from them. Thank you very much for joining us right now. Bye-bye.